even this match is not going to be easy. I mean, Luminosity might be the favorite, but Citrus Nation have shown they really like getting upsets. Luminosity, though, I mean, this squad, Vision and King, Vision especially, I think, on the hit scan has had some really high highs. False is going to be coming in, so we've seen mostly Dante. This is a bit of a change-up, especially with how the meta's been going. I wonder, is there an interest in a Ram, a Diva, and we know False can also handle the Orisa. So this is a change-up for Luminosity Gaming, but False also a very, very strong tank player. I don't think this signals weakness for them. They might have something special cooked up for Citrus.
Yeah.
I mean, is this especially for Citrus, or is this also just based on the learnings they had in their last match?
No.
Because they suffered a devastating 3-0 loss.
They did, but this is pre-planned, right? You have a role for False, and he's going to fill that role. You don't make last-minute changes this time in the main event, so nothing rational. They probably have or something rational, rather. For Citrus Nation, though, I think that they've looked really solid this event, particularly when they beat Timeless. I thought that Seb did an amazing job on their reset duel, getting more value in that regard and beating out Riker. But it comes down to the support players, in my opinion. Jacob, he has had a couple of moments this main event where he struggled to get the sound barrier out in time or questionable usage of it, and you just can't afford to make mistakes when you are a support player in these compositions. Both the Kitsune Rush and the sound barrier are so crucial, and so when you go up against a team like Luminosity, your damage players can't just like solve the puzzle for you. They can't make up for the mistakes you make. So if in this scenario you are Jacob or neutral, you gotta come out and have really good support ultimate usage. Otherwise, this game is gonna slip away from you.
But, I mean, their frontline has been putting in the work. Lethal has been a phenomenal pickup for this team. They looked so very strong when they were fighting their stride.
Yeah, I think a lot of strong players on both teams. I think you're right to look at the support matchup, though. They don't get enough love normally in the meta, but I think Squid is a player on Luminosity that I'm really excited by as like for the future of NA, for a player that's really has a ton of potential already on a high level, and seems like he has more to give. So I'm eyes on the Kiriko or the BAP, whatever they decide to bring out here. I think Squid could be a huge difference maker.
Yep.
Now, I may have fallen victim to, recency bias here. I was really impressed with what we've seen from Citrus Nation in their match against Pip. It was one of the most exciting matches I feel like we've seen in the region thus far. It was a very close match that they fought there in the lower bracket. And meanwhile, of course, Luminosity Gaming, they struggled in their last match. Of course, it was against a very tough opponent. I went for it. I believe in Citrus. Love lemons, love limes. What's not to love about that team?
I think Citrus is an exciting competitor, but I still had to go with Luminosity here. I think they're the favorite. As much as that loss yesterday was tough, it was to a team of a different caliber, frankly, than Citrus Nation, with MED looking resurgent, looking like a team that wants to challenge Toronto Defiant. Not necessarily the worst loss to take. So if Luminosity can iron out their differences and find the synergy to go into this match and play their best game, I think their peak is going to be a little bit higher based on their experience, how long they've played together as a full unit.
Yeah, as much as Citrus Nation is a good story, Zoe, Luminosity is the better team. So I would predict Luminosity to win this one. So you got the brains versus the heart. I'm sorry, Zoe.
I'm rolling with it. I don't care. I love making bad calls if they.
I don't think it's that crazy though. To be clear, I think there's a real chance here. This is not.
It'd be an upset.
It would be an upset, but not as shocking as some others. I think Citrus Nation has shown a tendency to play up to the level of their opponents, and strong DPS are strong DPS.
Acidity may be winning this out. Probably not, but I want to believe. Let's see what our casters think about this one. Mitch, Matt, how we doing?
AKA the blow-up.
Good, yeah, the blow-up boys, yeah.
AKA. Knew that one was coming. Mitch is gonna hate me forever on this one, I think.
On the name, I'll probably just roll with it at some point, Matt. You've really got to own this kind of stuff. It's better than being called UberX for the next 7 years, so I'm fine with it. I think it's important to point out, and I think like Jake made it very clear, while the Preds are favouring Luminosity, like I don't think anybody is willing to die on that particular hill. Yeah. And it's always interesting to get two teams that came out of the same group, from that GSL stage, now playing in that lower bracket, with the threat of elimination looming over their heads. Does Luminosity have to win this game to sort of still be in the running for a spot at Dallas?
Both these teams, right? Citrus Nation pretty much needs to like run the table, make it to the grand finals, win or loss there. They're kind of, in that spot. LG needs to obviously win here against Citrus Nation, but then also take out Students of the Game. So they have a really tough day ahead of them if they want to qualify. Also making a change in terms of tank, right? False comes in for a friend of the program, Dante, here, at least the beginning, kick things off. So potentially maybe for this Sigma that they're hovering.
Yeah, both those Luminosity games, with extremely high stakes on them, are just going to be incredibly fun to see play out. Today's matches that we have lined up are all really compelling as we have our teams here fighting through this lower bracket. This is still a lower quarterfinal that we need to resolve, and like was mentioned, waiting on the other side, students of the game. Looking at either of these two teams, trying to decide where they'd rather be paired up. But first, let's jump into Nepal here. It's time for a bit of Sanctum. We do have that dichotomy of Sigma versus the Orisa comp. Citrus Nation just love the Orisa setup, Matt. We saw it against Pirates in Pajamas. They really got a lot of mileage out of this.
And we've seen this type of Sigma-based play from teams before, right? You're almost trying to bait them into coming in with like a little bit of a rush, landing that big dynamite, putting damage down, and you see the Orisa Zeb getting right up in the face of Luminosity. That's going to be Immortality Field out already. They got to do everything they can to keep Zeb alive, and they lose Jacob in the process.
I'm going to point out the Echo is here, right? Which is something that wants to push up and take a lot of space, otherwise Vision has a pretty easy time clipping Tap's wings. Normally Tap was seen on the Tracer, who's looked incredible on that roll. And I feel like Citrus Nation, Matt, maybe just push up a little too far. Zeb takes a ton of damage and gets out. But I think it was Neutral, or Jacob rather, they got caught.
Well, when they pushed in, actually, Vision is like kind of like playing like a little bit of an off angle, right? So he's not even there for them to kind of collapse onto. So he's over on the side, putting down some serious damage on the Ashe, and never able to make a play for that Ashe, who's a pretty susceptible target that would come with that dive.
Still have to see how Tap finds value for the Echo here, considering the Vision is at large on the Ashe and playing in a safe corner of this main room. King here with a recall. No risk of getting booped off without ability available, but look at that, they managed to zero in on Lethal and pick them off. Now Citrus Nation still pushing, by the way. They are still well and truly trying to dive on Luminosity. But again, Squid's there with the Baptiste, there's an Immortality Field, and False is able to get the better of Zeb here. This Orisa composition is just overextending too far.
Well, LG just like runs, right? They just speed boost away, right? Then you're kind of stuck still in the middle of nowhere for Citrus Nation, where I think you'd probably be better off playing like a Tracer here versus instead of the Echo. Like the Echo, you're going to need to get in there and burn a target down, where if they keep kind of like rotating out, it's just an easy target for the hit scan to pick off.
Tap has to play awfully safe here for most of the map. Staying out of those sight lines of Vision is not going to be easy. You can see where Vision is over just by the stairs on the other side of the room, and Tap's forced to play these really tight angles like this to get damage until they're ready to actually dive. Citrus Nation, they'll be getting the cap here. Squid with an amplification matrix can make good use of this, and especially linking up with Vision would be lethal for Tap or anybody else who got too close. There's a flank attempt there from Tap, trying to put pressure on this Sigma. But Zeb, again, so low when they push in. False is chilling.
And all sticky bombs there from Tap actually just hit one of the lamps. That'll actually be a sound barrier here, keeping everybody for Luminosity up as we're going to hit OT.
Okay, I like to see the rush in with the beat. Can they convert on the rest of the fight, though? Jacob actually went down to Bob. He had a sound barrier of his own. Citrus Nation might have lost the round with that kill. Tap at least is able to find a duplicated pulse bomb onto Juby, though. And that's going to give them a fighting chance here. That could have been nasty business, losing the Lucio.
And let's see what type of position they take now that they actually have control of the point, right? Do they kind of like back up and play a little bit of a distance, or do they want to, press up, not allow Luminosity to take some of this space? So they kind of show a little bit, push back towards that mid-bridge area.
Vision, good pressure there, especially on a Lucio.
Oh, Zeb's so weak.
Lethal gets the drop on Vision and finds a railgun, but Vision is able to withstand it. Another one, constantly getting topped up. Able to stay outside of the Terror Surge, but spends all this time reloading while Zeb goes to work on the rest of Luminosity. They get False at the very least, but it's going to be a trade. Once again, Zeb has to put himself in harm's way in order to get rid of the Sigma.
Yeah, I mean, the point does flip, but it's going to be Citrus Nation who ends up taking it back, as it looks like still a few players here from Luminosity and the Ant Matrix. They want to try and fight this. It's going to be a sound barrier for Citrus Nation just to get out of that small corridor.
Tap had a beat. It didn't last on them very long because they were facing down Vision through an Ant Matrix. Eventually, their life force runs out, but Tap was able to find the assassination on a Baptiste, at the very least. Luminosity here, starting to give over some capture progress, but they're looking much stronger. Bob now to contest the point. We see False pushing up, looking very healthy. Zeb is anything but.
Yeah, the Bob and the Tracer get on the point, then end up flipping it, so the point control to Luminosity as Citrus Nation they drop that Kitsune Rush, get really no value from it.
Spear thrown over to the point. Zeb trying to keep tabs on King over there, but a double pulse on the whole backline is going to secure it. What a way for Luminosity to find the opening to end the round. There's no way they're coming back from that. Citrus Nation keep it competitive here. Again, having to play a little differently in order to properly threaten a Sigma, but False is very comfortable in that role and in that matchup.
And man, and the pulse bomb connecting with both supports there at the end. We'll take a look at it here from King's POV. Is
Suzu and Swiftstep both got used. There's nothing that backline could have done.
no. That is a brutal scenario to be, right? That backline is like kind of playing in that corridor, trying to like contest point when that happens, and use all your kind of utility, and then get hit with the pulse bomb. It's worst case scenario. There's Luminosity hovering a potential Ramatra comp here, so not going to play the Sigma on this point. Is the Sigma's not really great here. We've talked a little bit about it when teams have tried to run it, like can control high ground, but when the fight breaks out on the point, pretty difficult, where a Ramatra gives a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah, we saw Sigma on Samoa in that sort of NSSG series, I think, and found some value, but here on Village, a little bit risky to make this work. False, poking Zeb down. Well, something we noticed in Citrus Nation's last game is that Zeb was taking the brunt of that frontline damage. And the question of whether or not they were able to win the fight really hinged on keeping that Orisa standing. False again seems pretty unperturbed by Citrus Nation's probing for the time being. There is a little flank being set up by Lethal, but they've just been spotted out.
Yeah, I also think Tap needs to be really careful, right? Playing around vision on that Cassidy, so Lethal, though, connects with King at range. That's a huge shot there for Lethal. Citrus Nation needed something to go their way.
He's being careful.
That's probably it.
That's a great point. You see, they really just sit around that corner and bide their time here. Very aware of the mag grenade that could ruin their plans, but eventually they hit the front line at the same time as Zeb does. So Citrus Nation, at risk of losing the point, now are looking very comfortable.
Yeah, Pulse Bomb connects there from Tap onto Vision, so getting off to a good start here for Citrus Nation is be able to control some of this high ground where the Sojourn can build up some railgun damage, right, on the Ramatra shield, can kind of outrange that Cassidy here on this point. It's really kind of like the Tracers just both pestering out some of those hit scans. That time it's Lethal taking out King right off the rip.
Luminosity really want to take a fight in a position where Nemesis form can get maximum value. Sound barrier here, and I do want to see if Luminosity try and lead with it or use it to save someone and turn the fight around. Talking to Jake, he feels like leading with a sound barrier is generally not a good idea in many of these fights and has a low win rate. Squid taken down here. Lethal is able to find purchase with this overclock. Citrus Nation, another consecutive fight win. A fight in which Juby used the beat as well. That is backbreaking.
Yeah, we typically see the sound barrier used in response to like overclock, right? Provide some of that extra overhealth, make it a little bit harder for the Sojourn to result in just kind of getting some of those easy pickoffs, and Lethal ends up popping the overclock. They end up using their sound barrier, and then Zeb kind of grabs everybody in with a Terror Surge, plus that overclock does a lethal damage to a few players. This will be quite brutal. Potentially last fight territory. It'll be a Deadeye to open things up. But Citrus Nation, they're totally fine fighting on the point, right, with double support ults.
Luminosity want to close the gap if they can. Gotta be a tough ask though, especially now against a Kitsune Rush that might be inadvisable. Zeb drops. Duke's put up here by False, soaking much of that damage along with the Immortality Field. Very early deployment of that for Luminosity. They must have felt quite threatened. Now Citrus Nation can try and leverage the beat into a point flip and a round win. That would have been a big pulse for Luminosity, but now the beat comes down. Neutral, not going to be benefiting from it, but Tap is more than happy to use it to get in Squid's face and find the backline all on their own. Great pulse on the Lucio to end it. This should be Citrus Nation running away with the game. That annihilation from False reeked of desperation.
Yes, it looks like this will be Citrus Nation taking our second round, so a much different looking round here than round one, where I think the Orisa comps definitely obviously play better than Ramatra. I think in kind of like that head-to-head, we've seen Orisa win out a significant portion of the time, where it looks like False already potentially going towards this Orisa here for this final point.
Definitely feels like Ramatra, while favored against Sigma in some circumstances, falls over to Orisa. Orisa has probably, the ability to mitigate that damage while also taking space, with the Javelin Spin, whereas Ramatra gets slowed down greatly and can only sort of really defend himself there. So doesn't break up projectiles, doesn't cancel out things like pulse bombs and such. And when push came to shove, Citrus Nation were really able to set Zeb up for success while Tap goes and just kills entire backlines on their own. They've been a standout for me, I think, over the last couple of days.
Absolutely. So you'll get another Tracer head-to-head here Biggest difference, obviously, is the Sojourn versus the Cassidy. And then if you're going to run the Cassidy, you're going to play that Baptiste, right? You know, the Immortality field. You need the Kiriko Swift Step to kind of move around with that Sojourn, where the Immortality field keeping the Cassidy alive is pretty important.
Having access to Amp Matrix is a big deal, but the Kitsune Rush really supercharges that rush from the Citrus Nation composition. Decent damage here, but eventually Vision probably wants to drop to the point to get the most out of this Cassidy pick. That, of course, carries an element of risk, though, and maybe getting these Orisas a little bit lower before he gets involved might be advisable. Zeb trying to fall back to a safe spot to get healed, and Neutral really trying to get the Orisa topped up quickly, but just that damage deficit on frontline has forced Citrus off the point.
Yeah, it was everything used there for Seb at the start, right? Ended up using Spearson and Fortify. King in a lot of trouble, makes it to the health pack. That's huge to be able to stay alive, as didn't have any blinks, no recall.
Need to find a way as Citrus Nation to clear Luminosity off the point properly. Working from an off angle, Lethal is able to ignore the Amp Matrix for the most part. But King wins the Tracer duel. Vision says, I don't want to stand here anymore, I'm going to come forward. We have a double player advantage. I'm going to exacerbate it as much as I can. And Luminosity, I mean, both these maps, very back and forth. The Citrus Nation very much dominated Village. Luminosity up to a great start.
This is a really weird spot for Lethal to be in. Very far behind enemy lines is King, and it looked like Juby were trying to hunt him down. As I look at this, I mean, this is in the spot. This is in their spawn.
Yeah, and also uses a overclock there. That probably feels bad. Now, if you have the point and you're 48% up, it's probably much more reasonable to go for that kind of play. If you can find the best trade.
They flip it?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I just think if they already had control of the point, the delay on backliners seems worthwhile. Tap's able to find False over the pulse bomb. King, no such fortune with their ultimate. Citrus Nation still have the Orisa in play, though. That's a big problem for Luminosity. Forced to concede, but the point had already been flipped here, so this is just bonus time now being gained by the Nation. Juby throws a beat in here. Looks like Luminosity are back and ready to make use of it, with the exception of False, who I'm sure is rushing to return to the fray. Jacob gets picked off there after having used the beat, and Zeb can't afford to Terror Surge here. They're a little bit too low, I think. Take the one, trade out their kill. Now Luminosity looking to flip back.
Yeah, Zeb was so weak. So I guess that long flank there from Lethal ends up giving them 39% there. Kitsune Rush ends up keeping Zeb alive. They lose False, so you're able to extend that probably a little bit longer than you originally had thought for Citrus Nation. But now Citrus Nation really kind of stuck with nothing here. Is gonna need Lethal and Tap to come up with one of the two to come up with an early pick.
I don't even know if they had the point while Lethal was flanking there, but they did. I mean, Lethal did tie up two players that might have led to the flip being possible.
There were three. They had that Immortality field back there as well. So they had three players all the way back there.
This is awkward. Yeah, Amp Magic's thrown up, but Zeb pushed up so far. King is able to make use of the window. Squid being removed here, but probably already used that Immortality field, so their job essentially is done. Luminosity still in a position of power now. They might have lost False, but King still wants to push up. Dangerous, though, playing at that range against the Cassidy. Very risky business indeed. Waits for Lethal's head to get turned, and there's damage coming from three different directions. Lethal could not hold on there. Vision able to come up with a kill. Luminosity very close now. Zeb to the point first, but False should be back in time to contest this now, as Luminosity just cycle players on and off the point to avoid giving it over.
Yeah, as LG does have a sound barrier to use, and that's going to be sound barrier plus Immortality field, keeping everybody topped up. Everybody gets hit by that sound barrier. As a little bit of a desperation Deadeye here for Lethal. Just gets one shot into King, but not going to be enough to finish him off.
That should be the round now with Lethal out of the picture. Zeb mostly being ignored for that fight until the heavy hitters had been removed. And there it is, Luminosity start off strong here. If this has been any way to gauge the rest of the series, we're in for a close one. Both teams trying different compositions. I think the Ramatra look from False was probably a little bit of a miss for me, but they're still able to take out the entirety of Nepal after a strong showing going back to the Orisa comp.
Yeah, really close game there. I know get a little dance going. That's what I was laughing at. Hey, I gotta say, looking good today. Not going with the one tuck, going with the totally
I did have it, but then I yawned and stretched and it pulled out. Now you've made me self-conscious about it. I might have to fix that in the night.
Nah, it's all
Thank
good.
you.
It's all good. Really close game for this first game of the series. We've had a lot of blowouts in NA, but this one potentially looks like it could be a pretty close series. Where at the start it was really Luminosity in control, right, running this Sigma comp, giving Citrus Nation a lot of trouble. And then the second point is where Citrus Nation really kind of took over.
Well, Force played 3 different tanks over the course of Nepal, right? First the Sigma, then the Ramatra, and then finally the Orisa. So, I mean, it's great to see such a variety, whereas I think, Citrus Nation are the counterpoint to this idea where they generally just prefer to play that Orisa. And she is very, very strong, but I think if there are situations in which you have a deep enough hero pool, and you may be, a specialist at either Ramatra or the Sigma, you can actually, finagle your way into a position where you have a favored matchup in that front line. Look, Tap was pretty incredible. I think the DPS line of Citrus Nation are very, very good. But I like that the desks wanted to draw attention to supports, because I think that both these teams have great DPS and tank lines. That's maybe where we're looking closest. Juby with some really key beats here. The timing very, very good. Squid, of course, setting up that awkward air matrix there that actually allows King just to burn Zeb down and really give Luminosity a huge advantage going into the last phase of Shrine. You can see here, hotly contested, very competitive matchup. I do think that the 5k, difference in damage mitigated when you have an Orisa mirror is pretty interesting, but that might also be sort of the entirety of the pool. So that might make sense when you've got the Sigma and Ramatra mixed in.
Yeah, and I assume they don't have Dante in because they want to run some of that Sigma, right? Because, we've seen Dante play, Ramatra, we've seen him play Orisa in the past, right? Just as yesterday, right? So they'll actually see Dante come back in here for the next map coming up. So this probably gives them a little bit more flexibility in terms of like a Orisa Diva type stuff,
Winston?
right?
Is this like a Dante Winston map potentially? We've seen some teams try for it.
But potentially, we've seen teams try for like Diva or Winston here. I think you probably just come out and play the Orisa just because it's so good, and then if you feel like you need to access that high ground, then you can move over and try and the Diva or the Winston.
I think like the consensus is that the Winston comp is just fundamentally weaker than the Orisa one, and if you ever have to take a pitched battle for whatever reason, you probably lose. Yes, I mean, attacking into the high ground with a Orisa comp can be kind of awkward, but you just push the card to the corner, then take castle, drop back down, and keep going. So there are a number of ways that you can overcome like your inherent lack of mobility as Orisa on this map, without having to switch to a Winston comp entirely, which, as we know, completely changes the way you have to play.
I mean, you just get Lucio's speed, you have spear spin, right? You're so fast with Orisa. Like, sure, you can't access high ground per se, but you can definitely, get into the back line or, get into the spots that you absolutely need to.
So that's something to keep an eye on here. Dante's calling, if you recall, for Luminosity. I think up against M80 he's very adamant that they were, scared. It felt like they were playing scared. They were sort of refusing to take fights or just like trade themselves out. Citrus Nation, tough loss to take in map 1 where they look competitive. Let's hear what's on the docket for map 2.
Kiri Kree right side and then the rest left.
All right, are we faking left or are we just like slow walk right and then go fast?
I think no matter where we go, we fake the other side. It's just good rule.
I bet. Okay, Tap. So this fight, triple blink in and kill 24 people.
Yeah, that's probably a good play.
I like that. Man, let's
hit a god pulse. Loki go to fight plan.
Gonna broke with the gold weapon. Walk. Sag.
Urus. Kiri's up. I'm gonna walk in left soon. 3, 2, 1. Walking left.
Everyone.
Okay, walking right. I can walk in 4. Hopefully they'll. Walk fast. 3 seconds. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Walk in.
I'm in there. I'm good.
Careful.
You good, Zeb? How's that?
I'm good. I mean, we need some help.
I'm seeing
Turn away.
They're on a hard push.
We're seeing really.
Walk left with lethal. Walk left with lethal. Walk left.
Crew on.
Wrist now. Yeah, nice. I'm in. I kill.
I'm on point.
He's so low.
I'm going to my team.
Are we still on?
Here's some point.
Okay.
You guys need TP, let me know.
I'm on point, you guys.
They take a fight early here, but with your choke.
I'm going with lethal. Me and lethal are going flank, okay?
Just help me stuff this so they can't touch.
They will touch.
All about Lethal there, Matt. Finding 2 quick picks to open up the point for Citrus Nation when things were starting to look dire. But Luminosity want to shove right back here, take advantage of some spawn camp potential.
Yeah, they use that Kitsune Rush. They're not able to get anything, though. Citrus Nation kind of read it a little bit back up all the way, and then Lethal finds another one. What you did see in that first fight, though, Mitch, is a little bit of kind of what like Dante was talking about the other day, right? They got a few players weak. We saw Dante kind of like moving around the pillar, and nobody else really kind of like trying to follow up, allow Citrus Nation to back out and Lethal to get that first kill, and then things kind of fall apart after that. So Luminosity pushing past that door. They get they end up using their rush. That actually Citrus Nation does a nice job. They don't use anything, right? I know probably pulse bomb here in that fight, but
huge.
You build it so fast. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, Lethal opened it up yet again, Matt, with a pick onto Squid to begin that fight. So this Cassidy play when, you know, these comps are rushing each other down, playing within close proximity, adds a lot of volatility to the mix.
I'm laughing the mag grenade just goes so far.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've seen so many times it just gets yeeted in. I've even seen it like get a kill just because I think Cassidy throws it through like a BAP window and he like does like 50 damage or something like that. It's like actually reasonable damage at that point.
An arm like that, they should have invited him to the NFL Combine. I mean, throwing darts.
Yeah, finally get the Bears a franchise QB, you know what I'm saying? Sort them out.
I mean, I feel bad for. I mean, hopefully it works out for you guys, Bears fans out there.
Good luck, Windy City. All right, Lethal run over there, tries to go for a dead eye.
Didn't work out for Lethal.
No, that was a little bit awkward. I think getting. I don't know, just hoping to trade that into some kind of kill. Citrus got split there. I think that's the reality. Lethal caught on their own. Still,
they still use the rush.
That is an interesting commitment. I think they're also hoping to get a lot of good card push off this moment here, Matt. Spear thrown out here. Obviously, Dante is a killing machine when inside that Kitsune Rush, and Tap's able to find the Tracer kill.
Tap.
Lethal just dead again off spawn.
Tap's had a good series thus far. I mean, really early, but at least from what we've seen from the Tracer on Citrus Nations, looked really good. You heard in their comms, like, go kill 20 people. He might be able to do it. Stick and a sound barrier. Perfect time there from Jacob.
Yeah, that came up beautifully. Great. I mean, Tap is so sick, man.
Yeah, he's crushing.
And just as well, because Vision, I think, killed Lethal off spawn twice in quick succession, playing from the top of the castle. So Lethal probably, thanking Tap for allowing him to play the game.
Well, Jake talked a little bit about it on the desk where he's like, the Citrus Nation, they can kind of play up to the competition, right? Some teams kind of, play down to their competition. Some teams, step up in opportunities like this where I think you're seeing that from them thus far, even though you lose map number 1, very close.
That is what life is like for Kiriko in these Cassidy matchups, right? You stand out in the open without a shield, you're probably going to get punished here. Kitsune Rush, though, still came down at the very least, so Squid did their job, deployed the key ultimate, and then went back to spawn for a bit.
Yeah, the beat is good there for Juby as well, right? I know the Terror Surge kind of comes down. Things could have fell apart rather quickly, but I know beat keeps everybody alive, and that would have been a second point checkpoint take for Citrus Nation with a decent amount of time. So that was a big fight there for Luminosity.
They have to spend pretty heavily, though, Luminosity, to hold here. So they would love to drag this next fight out if possible. Especially start to race into some more of those ultimates. That's the last thing Citrus Nation want to see. They might even rush across this bridge. No, they see the disengagement. Oh, what? Oh, that is just
like falling down.
That is so marginal. Yeah, King just has no idea how that happens. I think, and now with the pick, you can throw the rush in, and he should be able to flatten Dante, who's desperately trying to get away, and they've left Vision all on his own on that high ground. Mag grenade. Vision has nowhere to go, and that is that second checkpoint.
Yeah, Juby was pretty close actually getting a boop off the side on the bridge there, but it doesn't get it as everybody ends up living there for Citrus Nation. So that's the second checkpoint. A little bit less than 3 minutes on the clock. Luminosity with a pretty big ultimate advantage though coming into this next fight. So you think they should be able to kind of turn this into a hold or two.
A lot of headshots here for Lethal, putting an extreme amount of heal pressure on Luminosity and preventing them from pushing up to this corner as far as they'd have liked. They've actually got to play the second corner instead now. Zeb a little isolated. Deadeye from Vision to reclaim some of this space. I'm quite happy to see this. Free damage on Lethal as well. Pulse on Zeb means that Reese will struggle to get out of there. Kitsune Rush is going to make it doubly hard for Citrus Nation to collapse in and save Zeb. It'll be an outright team fight win for LG.
Yeah, as Luminosity had that big ultimate advantage that we talked about. They end up using everything though, right? No, really, they end up using Terror Surge, Deadeye, and Rush. they'll have beat for this next fight, but it's going to give Citrus Nation a little bit of a window, right? When their rush comes up, there's going to be nothing on the other side, right, to kind of counter that. You're going to have beats that can counteract each other, but that rush could be huge.
Yeah, very invested ILG in just buying as much time as they can through this phase of the map. I like the flank there from Vision. Unfortunately, very quickly they are discovered. Dante only good for one here. Again, pushing back and creating space. So even if you sort of lose the fight, finding one more kill, yeah, nicely done by Juby. That's really important. Kiriko down. Might be able to bully Jacob a little bit more here as both supports look to go to Pound Town on this one, Lucio. Jacob a tough nut to crack though, and Squid will be punished.
Yeah. And tap here as well, right? You know, Jacob's going to go back to the spawn. It looked like he's going to go back to the spawn, trying to like escort maybe a player out, but looks like you have the space here for Citrus Nation. Is now Citrus Nation, right? 4 ultimates coming around this final corner. This could be where they take it with some time.
Citrus Nation can still lose this fight, especially if they lead with a beat at a bad timing, but it's actually going to be Juby going first, and Vision...
Oh, Vision doesn't get beat.
Not in time, I don't think. I mean, look how many players were involved in the elimination on Vision. There's no way that Cassidy was going to get away at all. And that's why you sometimes see the Baptiste in these compositions, right? To keep your Cassidy alive there. Citrus Nation, though, pretty respectable time bank. 48 seconds after finishing the whole map. Pretty competitive stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure Vision would have got it. It looked like he may have been actually like line of sighted behind one of the pillars, just kind of like because so much pressure is coming on him with the tracer, like backed up a little bit and just kind of moved out of the LOS. But still, the kill kind of happens at the same time. But yeah, to finish with some time, huge here for Citrus Nation. I think if you're Citrus Nation, what you're probably talking about is trying to get a hold or two on point A, dwindle some clock there, then control that high ground and put it away at that second checkpoint.
It was quite nice. Citrus Nation feeling comfortable in the, in the Orisa matchup, I think. And you saw like on a couple of occasions, Tap was putting a lot of pressure on Luminosity. Lethal in general was struggling, I think, to pushing into that second phase of the map, just because the high ground advantage that Vision had, and he was looking for the Cassidy every single time that Lethal sort of peaked out. But again, like once they're able to move up to the high ground, you see the Kitsune Rush engagement here. Like Citrus Nation are really well drilled at understanding their win condition. Both these teams obviously are playing for the same scenarios. And that's why we look very closely at sort of the balance of ultimates here, because generally speaking, we are watching two teams that are fundamentally evenly matched. We get to talk about the minutiae, the strategy, the timing of these ultimates.
Yeah, and I think for the scariest part for Luminosity, right, is I think that like Tap and Lethal are really kind of like stepping their game up, right? Where the Tracer for Citrus Nation's really kind of popping off. I think this map, probably more than the first one, we've seen Lethal come up with some big kills, right? Where I think that's a scary sign. Cassidy can put out so much damage and the Tracer can cause so much chaos. That could be hard to overcome, even if you got everything else rolling.
Slow and steady here.
Oh, nice spear.
That was beautiful. The follow-up was very good on Dante. Not often you actually see Orisa spears set up a kill on another Orisa. Generally, it's like get a Sojourn with it or something like that. This is pretty big for the defending side. I mean, you talk about bleeding clock. They finished the map with almost a minute to work with, so fights like that can really go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you win a fight there relatively fast, pretty much for free. Lethal has a big ultimate advantage now over Vision, right? Putting down some damage, on multiple players, getting some limbs, right? So you have that kind of dead eye to deter, so even some more time on the clock. So Citrus Nation with that first fight setting themselves up pretty well.
Zeb forced to back away here. Oh, again, King gets caught randomly by Lethal Deadeye. He's very good at finding just the little things, and I don't even know if he intended to shoot Juby.
Where is that guy?
Yep, just flying. I mean, we've seen it sometimes, right? Lucio's just like wall riding, getting caught by Sojourns or by Cassidy.
Check his PC.
Check him PC. ESIC on the speed dial. You get shot, you die. One of the buzz phrases. Either way, Luminosity need to bounce back real quick. They've lost 90 seconds of this time bank, and this is starting to really get ground to a halt.
Like, Vision's had absolutely no space, right? 75% to his first Deadeye. Lethal's already 50% through the second one.
They're back up inside the hunting lodge here. Take the high ground. Decent range here for Lethal to play at. Tappy's waiting on a perfect pulse bomb opportunity. Probably waiting for the Suzu to get expended. Dante's very low. That's great stuff. Good focus there. Neutral and Tap both looking at the Orisa. Probably a couple of kunai headshots helping to strip that armor away.
Man, they played that so well. Like, let's not panic. Who cares if we give up a tick or two, right? Come out, use your own rush. and then fight this fight where now, you have beats on both sides. Like, you kind of get into this spot where Luminosity, right? Like, you obviously only are one tick away. You feel like you invest some ultimates, you can do it. There's going to be an even match in ultimates on the other side where if you invest that heavy, you don't win this. I mean, you're in a lot of trouble from maybe not even taking that first checkpoint.
Pulse was held onto for so long by Tap, but there was a Suzu lying in wait. Here come the ultimates though. Luminosity don't get a chance to use many of them. They are being incredibly patient. I'll give them credit where it's due. But they're down to like 1 minute and 20 here. So this next fight has to be successful.
I mean, their big advantage will be sound barrier here, right? Sound barrier used by Jacob on Citrus Nation, trying to keep everybody topped up there for that last fight. The advantage for Citrus Nation, right, is you've completed the map. So you feel like if you get this to like, what, 30 seconds and you give up the points, you kind of did your job in that, you get a high ground control, you win a fight or two there, you're in a fantastic spot to get a hold. So you can be, a little bit more, free with your ultimate use.
Dante here doesn't need to overextend for the time being. Knows there's a Terra Surge opportunity, but don't need to force it. Zeb's very low. I mean, just winning out the damage trades in the front line. Dante throwing himself in between and catching Tap there. It's unclear where the Tracer actually was. And Zeb could be ignored. They were too low at the time anyway. It's a good fight win. Good take a point here. Citrus Nation at least don't spend their Orisa ultimate. And only 3 minutes for Luminosity to get up the hill.
Well, for Luminosity, I think pretty huge in the sense that they didn't actually end up using their sound barrier there, right? We were talking about how sound barrier is probably the biggest difference in that. They didn't even really feel the need to use it. They end up holding on to it. So you have this for this next fight where I'm curious how Citrus Nation wants to approach this. They want to jump down, take a little bit of a junk fight, burn some clock, or they want to play a little bit more patient, control this high ground.
Citrus Nation just developed their rush. Lethal not able to keep vision in check from the top of the castle as King had already made his way up there. Opening the back door here for the rest of Luminosity to make their way up. Tap again, struggling big time. Great pulse from Tap, but it just comes at a point in the fight where it's unsalvageable.
Yeah, it's actually a shot from Vision onto Lethal from low ground to high, and then King on a little bit of a flank just puts like maybe 1/2 a clip into him and finishes him off. So not even a real fight here. Is the Luminosity things starting to work out well for them, right? They're going to make their way around this corner, get close to the bridge. So it looks like Zeb and crew look down. Hey, is anybody here? Like maybe the Cassie kind of trailing. Didn't see him. This is a huge fight for Citrus Nation if they want to get a hold here.
Citrus Nation, it's a powerful position. At some point though, they need to commit off the high ground. See Luminosity, look at this. Do they back up and try and take a pitch battle on the bridge? They do, but look at the Tracer. They're trying to sneak the cart forward. I think Jacob was the one sent down by Citrus Nation to slow this up. Vision. Yeah, I love this. Hoping to catch like one of the flankers down on the cart contesting, but Tap knew better than to expose himself there. Lethal's there now for the high ground. He can LOS this with the cart mostly. Ooh, careful, Juby. You have a beat. Nicely done. Luminosity make great progress here, but now there has to be a fight by Citrus Nation. So Luminosity get what they want. They force an engagement. The defenders have no choice but to step up, and the Luminosity get to game this fight as they please. Pulse rolled away from there. Nice dodging by Lethal. And this is now actually going the way Luminosity would have liked. King trying to equalize, but Lethal found a second while the Tracer was going to work. Terra Surge is good. Needs to be a pick on this Lucio, and the Suzu is going to make that a near impossibility.
Yeah, Zeb is going to switch over to the Diva just to try and get back. Is really nice stall here from Jacob and neutral as Zeb comes back, finds Dante. I'm actually not sure that Zeb actually got the sound barrier in that previous fight that Jacob dropped down. He ended up just dwindling, in terms of health on the Orisa right on the payload, but that'll be Citrus Nation getting a hold here. At the very end, nothing to work with for Luminosity. It'll be tapped with yet another pulse bomb. It's come up pretty big throughout this series. This will be a huge
Lethal
one.
went up to the castle looking for a free pick there. Had that happened, I think Luminosity win the map outright. However,
yeah,
nothing really offered up there. Lethal having to drop back to the low ground now, and you'll see Dante, who's already below half HP at very long range. Just concentrated poke damage to make it hard for Luminosity to advance across the bridge. There was Tap's pulse bomb at one point, the only ultimate in this fight. Dante was low enough, I guess it could have
had to be very low.
Blown over by a strong breeze there. Maybe the longest range Tracer kill I've ever seen. This is going to be a struggle now for Luminosity. Lethal going to get brought down, bringing Vision down, and a lovely follow-up shot onto Juby here. So Citrus Nation come alive here. They look very comfortable in general, and Eichenwalde, great defense is what sets up this win condition for them, and they've even up the series too.
Yeah. It's a really good offense there from Citrus Nation, and then they just played really well on defense, knowing the advantage that they had completed the map with some time bank. Really good holds on first point, and then just kind of like one really big fight there on second that ends up going their way and sets them up in a perfect position to win the map.
Luminosity tried to, drag them out of position. That sort of second to last fight where Citrus Nation have to commit, they have to fight outside the castle doors. That's where I felt Luminosity's best opportunity was. All economy maybe didn't favor them hugely, but they had snuck the cart so close to that next checkpoint that Citrus Nation had to give up the high ground. They had to play from a position that put them on more even footing with the attackers, which was huge for Luminosity. I like how they maneuvered there, but they just weren't able to execute clean the fight. And Lethal really coming alive in those last couple of engagements with multi-kills in both fights.
Yeah, Lethal and Tap were sick. It's also that fight that you mentioned, right? They kill Zeb pretty early, where you get the Orisa out of the way. You think like you're in a fantastic spot. But Jacob and Neutral did a fantastic job, I know, with some other players on Citrus Nation of keeping things going as we take a look at some of the highlights here on the offense from Citrus Nation. This is where that, kill happens there onto Vision. Yeah, happens right before the beat goes down. So doesn't get the benefits of that sound barrier as everybody collapses.
Yeah, I mean, again, you pointed it out, that mild LOSing that allowed the collapse onto the Cassidy was what really broke that fight open. This was Lethal again, and sort of one of those final moments. You notice that Dante, though, we sort of mentioned it, right? Tap just sprays randomly at super long range and kills Dante. But just being able to put that great poke pressure down on the Orisa at long range is why Kiriko is kind of nuts. She has such a subtle impact because you can't always tell what is a kunai headshot and what is just something else. But I would suggest that in many situations that Cassidy and even that Kiriko, mid-range damage, can make it really hard for Orisas to get into a fight with any more than 30% HP.
How long do you think Luminosity wants to play this Orisa mirror? It looks like, at least from the early onsets of this series, right? Citrus Nation looks very strong playing this Orisa in the head-to-head matchup. I just don't know what else you do, right? The comp is so strong, it's so versatile that it feels like you're at a disadvantage, or where you have to play something else at such a high level, right? To kind of counteract how easy it is to play that Orisa.
So watching this morning, right, we actually saw ENCE play Sigma on our next map, which would be Esperanca, where Space Nation weren't quite able to find the answer. They tried to play, I think, the Ramatra quite extensively into the Sigma, and which is supposed to work well. It didn't really, and Hardy ended up having to play Reinhardt, up against that. They also had a sim, obviously the MEA comps are kind of wild, but, that's sort of an option, right? But there's no guarantee that you can sort of, counteract the Orisa comp with Sigma, on a map like Esperanca. So I don't know if that's really, we'll know with the subs, right? If Dante gets subbed out, then I'll say they're trying to play Sigma. No subs, apparently.
I think Space Station's also a little bit of an anomaly, right? They are not going to play the Orisa. They're going to play, Reinhardt. They're going to play Ramatra. They're going to just kind of
a lot of
do their own
Symmetra,
thing. Right? Yeah. I mean, that's just a team that's kind of in their own lane, kind of playing their own style. So with no subs, you expect them to kind of stay the exact same type of thing. So we'll see another Orisa head-to-head. We take a look at some of the Cassidy stats here as this was filthy
stuff. This actually blew out a lot more than I kind of realized. We were just using the eye check to keep track of the Cassidy matchup in general, but that's pretty absurd. And I would also suggest that that extra bit of damage dealt is huge, right? That is, 3K or so. That is multiple Orisas. That's 5 Orisas worth of damage, right? So, pretty impactful. Also, very involved Lethal was in many of those eliminations. So we'll keep an eye on that because it's been pretty important in terms of chunking enemy Orisas down and finding great picks on Lucio's, for example. Cassidy, one of the best heroes in the game at just shutting a Lucio down with a couple taps. Esperanca coming up next, and with Dante not switching, we probably expect to see much the same looks.
Yeah, what we see, I think, kind of be the biggest variance for this map is, do we see Cassidy or Sojourn at the start, right? If you have the Sojourn, you can, and they have the Cassidy, you can kind of play a little bit slower, allow them to kind of come around the corner, play for that high ground. If you have the Cassidy, you kind of in that type of situation, you're trying to build ultimates to get a push to round that corner in an effective way. So we'll get a chance here to see at the start what both teams are hovering, but both so far have really been favoring the Cassidy for the most part.
I do want to point out that this series so far has played out really similarly to the group stage between these two teams, because they obviously both come out of Group B. Luminosity comes out ahead. They play like a control map, which LG wins in 2-1, and then Eichenwalde comes up, which Citrus Nation wins 2-1. So exactly the same way as this series has played out. I don't want to spoil it for those at home, but Esperanca actually went in favor of Luminosity last time they played. So let's see if they can run that back again, because I think this to me is the tipping point in this series. If we find a win here, I think Flashpoint's our next map type coming up. That could sort of go either way here. Citrus Nation know what happened last time these two played. I would love to get an Esperanca win. That would be massive for them.
Yeah, it would be pretty huge here for Citrus Nation, right? To send it to that match point. I also think at that point we'll probably get an update on kind of for really, I guess if you're students of the game, you'd love to see Citrus Nation win, right? I know students of the game would obviously play them next, but that feels like it gives them a little bit more opportunities to qualify.
Oh, I mean, maybe. If Citrus Nation are able to play up to Luminosity and win out like that, I'd be fearing whichever team came out of this matchup. No, I do see your point. Orisa Mira, in case that wasn't already clear, no Sojourn to speak of here, which I think is a very interesting dynamic, because you can see that Cassidy feels a little bit awkward at these kind of ranges sometimes. Lethal playing very defensively around that bridge, getting peppered with all this long-range utility and random stray shots.
Yeah, Zeb gets gonna get quite low. Oh, they lose Zeb, but Lethal does find one. Man, it seems like the Luminosity does such a great job of targeting the the opponent to reset. I mean, a few times we see Zeb's health bar go from full to empty in seconds.
Dante there was looking to exacerbate the Orisa difference there and try and hunt Lethal down. Again, they're playing very safe, very defensive. That's a Suzu though. I think Luminosity will be tracking those very closely to gear up for their next rush in.
Yeah, that's a spear, knocks Dante off the high ground. This will be a speed boost here with a rush and the Deadeye. It's going to allow them to kind of just escape with a bot. So, see if they can get any progress. Oh, but Vision just comes around the corner. 2 taps, 2 players. So, not going to be able to get anything off of this.
Is there anything better than this? Just watching a Cassidy pop off like that. Ever since this game was released, it's one of the most satisfying things you could see. I like the idea there from Lethal, right? He sees Dante throw a javelin and goes, okay, well, I can Deadeye now. I'm not going to be interrupted, at least by the Orisa. But they all just like back away, give up that ground. And no one from Citrus Nation, like, they don't check the flank. Like, they don't realize that Vision is just walking up on them here. What a blowout that ended up being.
Yeah, it's a nice attempt there for Citrus Nation, right? It just kind of gives them some space, makes them come down from the high ground, but doesn't end up working out. Is Zeb trying to dislodge Dante from this position? Is Dante down playing on the cart?
Yeah, Dante actually took so much damage because no one on LG could see Zeb, but all of Citrus Nation were positioned in order to spot Dante from like the lower windows there. So easy Orisa gap to generate. Citrus Nation able to push back just as they were under threat of giving up that first checkpoint, and this time, no cheeky Vision flanks.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess the benefit for Citrus Nation here is they didn't give up the checkpoint, right? It looks like very close to getting it, but now they'll have an opportunity, with Sound Barrier, Deadeye, Terror Surge to potentially get a checkpoint of their own, which would be a huge swing.
I mean, this fight would have to be very swingy because both Tracers are going to be contesting. Oh, okay, good damage on Zeb, but I don't think there's a chance to capitalize on it because nobody else from Luminosity is up towards the bridge. Yeah, I think Neutral's just able to heal Zeb straight back up. Both Deadeyes end up kind of going for nothing. That was a very quick build of the Deadeye again, I think, there for Lethal. Now the bridge.
DNA rush for both teams.
I've used the bridge, high ground here. Lethal now sees behind him a lot of these LG players starting to surge towards them. Both teams going to trade out the sound barriers now. Very even stuff. Lethal, though, hungering for a target. And Zeb, once again, is lower in health bars. Pulse Bomb there gets eaten up. Great javelin spin there from Zeb. Yeah, that would have been the end of the Orisa. If King had anything to say about it.
Most certainly. Dante takes a headshot here from the high ground, gets quite low, but man, Zeb and Dante just taking so much damage, and the healers on both sides doing a crazy job keeping them topped up, but that's a first kill there as Neutral finds Juby.
Yeah, Juby wall rides and just takes a ton of damage from Lethal. All of a sudden, Dante now has not the ability to disengage or to even rush forward and try and, punish an opening there. Nicely done by Citrus Nation, but I'm not sure Juby has to be wall riding there necessarily. It's very risky against Lethal.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. Citrus Nation, they'll end up kind of pushing up a little bit here, with Zeb. They're going to get close to taking the lead. I'm not exactly sure they're going to be able to take it off of that fight as the bot moves quite slow. And yeah, Dante and Co jump down. But you're going to have another fight that's going to look very similar here, attacking this high ground.
Yeah, and again, this time Luminosity don't have like great ultimates to actually put pressure on that bridge position. Citrus Nation, okay, I thought they were giving it up. They don't. They re-establish it very quickly behind this Deadeye of Lethal, which seems to come up every 30 seconds. Vision, need I say, has one as well. They might sneak away a checkpoint here. Is there a chance to touch? Only just. Luminosity get there behind their own Cassidy ult. Little taps there from Lethal around the corner to keep Vision honest, but he is going to be tough to break. And getting a pick on Zeb here could be huge for Luminosity. They get him. They get rid of the Orisa. It ends up being a one-sided fight as they do infest this Kitsune Rush. Seems worthwhile, though, as they get the bot out of threatening territory and also could position themselves to take a cap.
Yeah, I guess the opposite, kind of looking at it the opposite way, right? Citrus Nation, they put themselves under a meter away from, taking the lead. And then also now end up having, Sound Barrier Kitsune Rush. So we'll see if you're able to get the checkpoint here for Luminosity. Looks like Zeb will come out, contest this, does not want to give that checkpoint up. It's huge.
And really easy to stall from there as the Orisa. It's just going to be an awkward position to play from as the team that currently is defending. See how they're breaking LOS by playing very close to the wall and just inching the bot forward. Saying to Luminosity, if you want this checkpoint, you have to commit. And you have to commit into a fight you don't have much information about. Cap here, trying to stay safe behind the wall. Everyone respecting Vision right now. Bot straight back through the underpass, and Dante says, fine, I'll drop and I'll contest this as well. We'll play a stalemate here over the choke. And also, if Juby can get a nice boop, sort of isolate someone by repositioning one of their teammates, it'll be a big deal. But that Kitsune Rush left over from the previous fight, Matt, is about to bite.
Yeah, and that's a sound barrier actually used on the high ground as well there from Juby and Co. But the sound barrier just a little bit later for Citrus Nation.
Dante, you inting? That was right. Dante, I think, realizes if he turns his back, he gets shot and probably eliminated. So he goes forward and tries to do a little more with that Terror Surge, but doesn't. Unfortunately, no one's able to combine with it. He doesn't find a kill. Yes, he gets a bit of that extra sort of durability from Fortify, but an awkward spot to use it. I don't think most of his team can actually see him there.
No, probably not.
Lethal.
Deadeye.
This has been one of the closest maps of Esperanca I've seen in quite a while. Such a slim lead here for Luminosity. We're running short on time. 2:45 to play here. Lethal has to turn this position into a kill pretty quickly, otherwise his team is going to get rickrolled. And it's going to be Zeb go first. No surprises here. Jacob just gets away. Only just 1 HP, actually. And with Lethal going down, the cleanups here for Luminosity. And they'll be pushing it on back. This time, they won't be pushing against a defender, Matt, who has a Kitsune Rush against nothing of theirs.
No, it should be Zeb getting to the point, though, being able to contest, right? So you should be able to stop this for a brief period of time. Actually, it looks like they've backed up a little bit to try and come out here as a group. So the Zeb actually does get out there and contest. That's a pulse bomb that goes on to Dante. So they really want to stop this checkpoint.
So they keep Dante alive, but they can't keep Vision in the fight. This is going to swing back the other way here. It's a veritable Newton's Cradle of Overwatch 2 gameplay. Such a tight affair. Citrus Nation able to explode, and without ultimates, need I say, outside of the pulse bomb, to be fair. They're able to get the bot moving back once more. And it's going to be Luminosity on the back foot here. Hope King can break this fight wide open.
This rush could be huge, though. Neutral's going to have this Kitsune Rush here for this next fight, and you don't need much, right? About 3 meters here to take the lead. So it's really about, just about nothing as King takes one shot there from Lethal on the high ground. Almost fatal.
Zeb trying to usher the bot forward here. They're on the right side of it now. Luminosity going to be forced back into that corner. Back grenade here for Lethal. Punish anyone who wants to try and step up. That shot speed is so fast. Vision got flattened by Zeb here, and now the Deadeye could punish you if you try and step out. Beautiful checkpoint take for Citrus Nation, and now, with only a minute left in the entire game, they've got further to push.
And here's the brutal dilemma for Luminosity. Do you end up using support ultimates to try and take this bot back? Citrus Nation, you can bleed some clock here. And then also with, this 7-meter lead, you can actually probably get back to the point and, just kind of get a contest. So we'll see if they decide to actually invest some of these support ults.
It doesn't look great, Matt, but I mean, it's the front spawn that actually is the most punishing part of this whole thing. Now Citrus Nation, can kind of chill. Luminosity have to win probably 3 fights in a row to exceed their time. It would be 2 if not for the front spawn, but that's just the way things go. Terra Surgers both find big kills here. It's going to be Jacob down for Citrus Nation, just having built a sound barrier. So Luminosity can make up some of this ground. Juby will be avoiding using that beat if possible, but he's had to back away.
It's not a fight win. Yeah, it's not a fight win. As you know, you end up using a bunch of ultimates there. The Kitsune Rush specifically, you don't really get much of anything. And now it's Citrus Nation with double support ultimate looking to close it out.
That went horribly.
That forward spawn is so nice.
Yeah, it really makes a huge difference. As the Luminosity have to win so many more fights in order to catch up. And this is where it's going to have to start. They're doing it against a rush once more because Squid and Neutral have been out of sync with those ultimates for the entire round. That's actually been the only way to separate these two teams for most of the game. Sound barrier here, Tap gets caught. Juby pushing up with Dante, adding some damage to the mix. Now to wrap around, more disruption. Notice the Cassidy getting knocked away is going to force a sound barrier out of Jacob for only 4, and that's been enough to give them Dante. Citrus Nation making it happen with only 4 players. They don't need Tap right now to make this work. Luminosity starting to crumble now. And this time, history gets subverted. Citrus Nation, the better team here on Esperanca, starting to threaten to run away with this.
Yeah, you mentioned like know how the last series went, right? This one kind of gets flipped on its head where Citrus Nation, they're down for I feel like most of the game, right? No, I feel like for 75% of the game they're down and they find themselves clutching up in a big way there. It's really when Luminosity uses that rush and then they don't even win that fight, you get another like 10-15 meters there for Citrus Nation. That's kind of the game. I mean, you absolutely need to win there for Luminosity. Must win fight scenario. They end up losing.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like, I don't know, when I think of like great push maps, like that for me is definitely up there. It's a lot of back and forth here. Both these teams really valuing not giving away that checkpoint because of the front spawn is really oppressive to play against once you've given that level of ground. We have the sound barriers that generally come up at the same time between these two teams, but it's alternate fights in which the Kiriko ultimates are there. So, you basically say like, well, we have to win this fight with our Kiriko ultimate. If we don't, we're going to be in deep trouble. And all of a sudden it goes from, one fight here, one fight there, and Luminosity's focus just starts to crumble towards the end of the round. I've got to say, like, again, really impressed. I've been watching the support lines very closely. It's been about getting those big beats. I think there's one fight where Jacob, I mean, I think it's his last fight, just spends a beat on 4 players to say, hey, like, I'm not going to save this for the next map. I'm going to have to use this now.
Yeah, there was a part where I wasn't sure, like, they had an opportunity to drop the beat with everybody alive, right? Right after Luminosity drops theirs, and Tap ends up falling, and they, Jacob ends up using it anyway a little bit later. I was like, oh, maybe you would have wanted that one back, but, it ends up working out in their favor because, but I think it's just like, hey, if they feel like they can kind of live and, even a little bit longer, right? Get some of that overhealth off and then use their sound barrier, it's better than, answering it with like a second later sound barrier. So,
I mean, I want to point out, Matt, that Citrus Nation obviously are the second seed coming out of this group. Both these teams end up beating Timeless, right? Which are, both the results are considered upsets, I think, by most people. It's actually Citrus Nation that sweeps them in the end. Like, Timeless really, struggling towards the end of that group stage. But now we have our second seed from this group threatening an upset over our first, and Citrus Nation will be very, very pleased to get to advance further in this bracket. Of course, waiting for them is Students of the Game. That's a story still developing as today's matches continue, and we'll be back on the other side of the break with more of those. Don't go too far.
3, 2, 1.
Back away. No Suzu, no gold. No Suzu, no gold.
Beating after, David.
Wait, wrist no gold. Pushing wrist in.
Okay, yes.
We win.
Beating.
Tracer 1. No re, Tracer.
Oh, Kiri. Take Kiri.
Low. Kiri.
Kiri one.
Low. Straight.
Okay.
Nice.
Oh, you're the boosters.
I need you right now.
Good,
Yeah, I need you right now.
It's no, I love you. It's pretty good. Nicely done there by Citrus Nation, making this game much more interesting now. We are 2-1 in this series. Citrus Nation having won that second map as well. A great Eichenwalde showing from them. And now we're heading on to Flashpoint, Matt. This was where Luminosity had a dominant showing. I think they were 3-0 in Flashpoints last time these two played. False gets subbed back in. Do you think there's a Ramatra comp brewing here?
Oh, I mean, maybe, but like, don't we have enough? You would think like data to say that like the Ramatra is just not great against like the Orisa-based compositions, especially if they're going to play Cassidy on the other side. I mean, Cassidy or Sojourn doesn't really matter, right? It's a little bit of a risk,
so
but maybe. I mean, maybe Luminosity just feels like maybe they need to change the pace in terms of the tank. We'll see. Kind of how things look, but also I think it's maybe you feel like, okay, we can't win the Orisa mirror, like we're just not at the level of Citrus Nation in that mirror, so maybe you decide to make a change there.
Well, it feels volatile. We've seen Luminosity do quite well with it. In fact, that they kept pace with Citrus Nation for the entirety of Esperanca until it seemed to us that their focus just slipped towards the end of the game. I'm not sure how they would describe it, but False might actually just roll out on 4 legs here as well. And maybe put him in a position to try and win out in this Orisa mirror. That's the plan, but Tap is on the Genji. We do see this pick fairly often on Suravasa, quite often on that first point, Matt. Being able to sort of play out from the rafters has seemed pretty valuable to many of our teams.
Yeah, this is quite interesting. Typically you see one team kind of take this opposite side and the other team take this angle here, but both teams actually fighting for this type of position, as it is Luminosity who get there first.
Pulse is desperately trying to be healed up here. He's about to run out of Fortify. So, oh my goodness, as soon as that ability expires, Pulse's health pool just takes an absolute nosedive. And yeah, they get picked off eventually.
Yeah.
Luminosity really try and stake their claim to the high ground on that stairwell and even throw a disruptor shot out, Matt, but Citrus Nation have the patience to wait those cooldowns.
Yeah, he kind of uses both like straight away, where you actually have Zeb kind of fall back, hold on to them a little bit, and then once he has spear spin up, healed back up, and they know that False has none of the cooldowns available, they just run him down.
Okay, well, False there maybe having to consider being more conservative. Oh my goodness, that is so nasty, the damage coming across there from Citrus Nation. Didn't even look like a railgun involved there, so I'm not sure what it was. Maybe Zeb just really focusing down with those headshots. King also needs to top up briefly. We have Kitsune Rush here, as Squid has been desperately trying to minister to the wounds of Luminosity over the last couple of fights. And they're going to play like they have it. Pushing up here, Zeb immensely trying to turn his back. Neutral going to reciprocate though. Look at the speed of these railguns coming out here. This overclock is deadly. Lethal almost drops though. They have to be careful. To the high ground, they spot King, but no blade yet from King, so Lethal not considering that enough of a threat to warrant the attention.
No, and you're going to be up to last fight territory here for Citrus Nation as they're in control of the point. Is False going to have to step on, get a touch. You have this sound barrier. You ideally like to keep it for the blade, but may end up having to use it.
I might want to use it now. Vision steps up here. Maybe Citrus Nation just concede the point for the time being.
Yeah.
Okay, that seems reasonable with the lead they have.
Oof. I mean, you typically see sometimes like that, sound barrier come out for the overclock, but with the blade on the other side of things, right? If Jacob uses it there and they lose that fight, then you're really screwed, right? You have nothing here for this blade coming up next. At least gives you an opportunity.
Citrus Nation on the regroup. They don't have an ultimate advantage. It's not like they, saved an ult by giving up the fight there. They just realized they were in a bit of a weaker position. Blade coming up for King first. Something well worth using the beat for, but Juby might be allowed to hold on to his a little bit longer. Luminosity by no means in a risky position here. Another fight win and they'll take the flashpoint. That is how close the margins are here. Time to go.
Yeah, you don't get many fights on Flashpoint as they get Suzu out there with the dash. So now you know that cooldown's down for a little bit.
Rush here for Luminosity. They want to now kick this point, and they want to take the first fight to ensure it. Zeb low, the deflect came in now. Terra Surge used, but Zeb gets blown up midway through. This is great for Luminosity. Tap trying to play the deadlock with the Dragon Blade, but has to get out of the Terra Surge now, and that blade's gone for nothing. Dash in, Suzu used there quite late by Luminosity. They're in a great point, and the cycling of those abilities was perfect. Great deflect, that's a, a railgun sent back in Lethal's direction. And Luminosity get the first.
Yeah, and they absolutely did not want to use that sound barrier there, even if it was going to save Zeb's life, because they knew if they used that beat, then they were going to die to the blade anyway. That comes out, but you know, King, another blade here is we'll have Zeb make his way over to the point, not going to step onto a control first. So Luminosity, although it goes 99 in favor of Citrus Nation first, end up taking our first flashpoint. You see how fast these points tick up, right? You really, it's like 2 fights and you're kind of winning one.
King didn't have to use blade.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
it'll be against a beatless Citrus Nation, so there's real potential to just get a free pick off of this. Again, a lot of high mobility targets on Citrus Nation, so no guarantee the blade finds value, but geez, I hate it that I'm saying this, but even if I make space, that might be worthwhile. Here comes King, bit of deflect action first, swing, and, well, you did create space, so zoning blade for King, but it gives a flashpoint over to Luminosity at least.
Yeah, pushes what, lethal and neutral very far back as you have one change here. So Tap will go back over to the Tracer here, where I think teams really love the Genji on the first point to control that high ground, but I think Tracer you can definitely get insane value of on the rest of the
Yeah,
point.
King only stayed on the Genji for the blade, so fair enough. Tap awfully close already to a pulse bomb though. Katrina rushes are up at the same time. Do Luminosity reciprocate? Yes, they throw it out here. Vision very low, going to go for the overclock now. Those are going to be fired off very rapidly. Sound barrier not available though for Citrus Nation. That's the big advantage Luminosity walked into this flashpoint with, and as a result, they'll extend their lead even further.
Yeah, just a back out there for Citrus Nation. Realized that was a fight that they were not going to win. Now the downside is, though, I mean, 70% already here for Luminosity. Pulse Bomb comes in, still going to be able to keep False up.
But the Pulse Bomb matters because False was so low and without armor for like 3 seconds. There was nothing Squid could do to try and heal the Orisa up quickly. So even though it doesn't get a kill, it gives you so much heal pressure and a huge HP advantage.
Yeah, it's a railgun a few seconds after, right, from Lethal that finishes off False. So you do end up flipping the point here, 98% for Luminosity. So still for LG, just one fight away from taking a 2-0 lead here on Flashpoint, where Citrus Nation, you're going to have to get a big overclock from Lethal. You also have the sound barrier to use, but you have to keep, tabs on whether it's King's Blade or the other opposing sound barrier you want to match it to.
We spent so long yesterday saying, because teams are not on the same fundamental level, it was pointless to look at those little things. Now we have to get the microscope out and look at this old timing, this old usage, and sort of forcing abilities out of opponents. Even little things like taking space matter so much in this matchup. This is really quite high level between Citrus Nation and Luminosity. A lot to discuss as these frenetic fights progress. Zeb low, but able to get some of that armor back now, ready to fight once more. Lethal with a real acute off angle. With the help of neutrals, able to bring Vision down. King gets flattened instantly. And another fight for Luminosity. At a critical time should mean this flashpoint will be theirs. That'll be... Oh, wait a minute, sorry. Citrus Nation turned it around midway through.
Yeah, I was like, what? We're just giving it to Luminosity?
No, we're not. Excuse me. I mean, that's what I get for looking so close at these bloody ult charges. Citrus Nation able to even it up.
You like the colors better, so you're just going to give the flashpoint to Luminosity.
So many colors today.
Because Citrus Nation's part of which anime is it again? I forgot.
Oh yeah, they're from Avatar, bro. The Juice Benders.
Oh, I was gonna say Avatar. Yeah. That was the one I was gonna say.
Yeah, you should watch it.
I just forgot.
I think you'll like Citrus Nation when you.
Oh yeah, I watched a little yesterday. I'll finish it.
Fire, wind, earth, and citrus. The 4 main elements. Lethal getting brought down there by Vision. And yeah, Citrus Nation, it was rather Lethal's railgun and the follow-up of Tap that really led them with that last fight, excuse me. Here's Terra Surge, pressure down on Jacob, but still has the beat to hold on to it. Zeb has a better Surge, catching False up inside that one. Tap committing to much of that fight as well. Pulse Bomb getting a huge chunk of damage.
And Tap just able to just stay alive on the point. Finish King off. You're going to have some staggers here as well, right? No Vision. Just gonna try and keep him alive. Nice, nice spear there from Zeb mid-air. So now you kind of take like a where things are at, right? 1-1 in terms of flashpoint. Citrus Nation on match point, right? You look at what's gonna happen in this next fight, right? Beats to match each other. You're gonna have neutral with that Kitsune Rush. With the way you have these ultimates, like you're staggered up, like there's so many. This could be just one fight that decides this flashpoint, realistically, right? You're gonna probably see this next fight kick off, 65, 70%. With all these ultimates, it's gonna go for a pretty long time. So this could be final fight if Citrus Nation wins it here.
The overclock from Vision. They need a good angle to make use of it here. With the Kitsune Rush, they're tempted to use it right now just because of that fire speed increase, but they hold on to it because that's been enough.
They always back out. It seems like whenever Rush comes down, they never want to use something of their own and fight it. They're always open to backing out. Citrus Nation, now they have the Rush and the sound barrier to go in.
Again, Luminosity use an ultimate like Dragon Blade before to create the space, but they were hoping for much more. Great disengage from Citrus Nation. Now they can come in with a rush of their own, and Luminosity have no choice but to hold their ground because of the percentage difference here for Citrus Nation. Vision, though, beautiful work. Able to scale back here in the face of this Citrus aggression and find 2 key kills with the overclock. That is beautiful. You said this next fight might decide the fate of this flashpoint. Luminosity not giving it up yet.
For whatever reason, Citrus Nation, when the overclock comes out, doesn't decide to use beat straight away, or maybe it was just like a second late because they end up losing one player from it. Vision nails like a really nice shot, gives them a pretty nice advantage in terms of being a player up, and then also still having that overclock running, where now it's Luminosity who takes the lead on this flashpoint. See Zeb gonna be having to keep him alive. It's gonna be an overclock, no sound barrier in response. You're gonna see they're all trying to hightail it out of here.
Citrus Nation trying to end the map, but another good disengage. The flashpoint is flipped already though. So Luminosity have a small buffer. If they had died there, they would have lost around instantly. So they've made the right choice in backing up and giving themselves a chance to fight for it. Kitsune Rush for Squid. That's what they're banking on. It's thrown out instantly. Here is Zeb's Javelin goes awry, gets blocked by the Javelin spin of False. And again, you take the point, both teams disengaging from these key ults, but they've given up the flashpoint entirely in doing so. Like, what was the plan there?
I think somebody was supposed to touch, but they actually don't get anybody to the point to get a contest and go into OT. So this flashpoint's done, but the fight still continuing.
That's
here.
awkward. Citrus Nation may be a little too good at disengaging there, Matt. They do respect the Kitsune Rush a little too much. Luminosity rewarded there for their tenacity of the last couple of fights. Citrus Nation win this one. The next flashpoint will be in striking distance of it now as they head across.
Yeah, I mean, that's
what a huge
little bit
error.
of just a junk fight win. Yeah, I wonder if it was like Tap that was supposed to touch, or maybe they thought, we saw it yesterday, right? Where I believe it was Pirates in Pajamas thought they triggered OT, but then didn't. Right. Could have been a scenario like that. So they do get this checkpoint, this flashpoint now to kick things off, and they do get the high ground control. So although you lose that one, pretty good setup here for Citrus Nation.
Playing this left side room can be awkward. Again, we have a situation where our Kitsune Rushes are out of sync, so every other fight, Luminosity, maybe a little bit more challenging to disengage away from that ability now. Don't need to back up either way. They've lost King, so their flank pressure has been neutralized entirely. Zeb more than happy to trade here some of these cooldowns with False. Both have Terror Surges.
They also kind of like bullied Luminosity back into this corner rather fast, right? False, comes around the corner, fortified with the spear spin, uses a bunch of cooldowns.
Look at the percentage.
Hiding in a plant over here.
Great stick, has to be a Suzu there. But the percentage is crazy here, Matt. Citrus Nation in a fantastic position, and now these Kitsune Rushes are synchronized once more, both used in that side room. This time Luminosity able to take some ground and send their Tracer down to cap, and Citrus Nation allow it to happen.
Yeah, they seem very willing to give the point up. Like, you could have actually had Tap in a position there to like contest with, the opposing Tracer, but they allow King to just take it. This is going to be False actually trying to get back into the backline. It's going to be spear spin here from Zed, keeping himself alive. It'll be sound barrier for both teams.
False lost all of their sound barrier instantly and the armor to boot. There's so much pressure now going down on that Orisa. False trying to stay alive here. Vision has a good angle in theory, but most of Citrus Nation are playing on the other side of the fountain. They're trying to look for a better off angle. They're looking for Jacob. They don't find it. Spear comes clattering in, catches Vision out, and Juby eventually gets picked up on the point. Citrus Nation will flip this back, and if they can, we'll be going to a decider flashpoint.
Yes, Tap has just been on another level throughout this series. 2 kills in that fight, and make it a third there on King to end it off. And like you mentioned, that'll be another flashpoint here for Citrus Nation. You win this. It's your series, right? Luminosity, tournament lives, Dallas chances on the line here.
This is definitely one of the most compelling series I've seen in a while. These two teams so evenly matched. Citrus Nation, this time they opt to give up the point. Not in the same way as they did on that third flashpoint. They give it up and come straight back in. And they have all the tools they need to win it out. Now it'll come down to this first fight in a big way. And Citrus Nation, again, seem better with these disengagements and keeping their ultimates in their favor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem giving up a little bit of percentage on the point, although it is scary in Flashpoint how fast it racks up. This will be a Kitsune rush here.
They're going to cap.
For Luminosity. This one will be answered, though, with a Kitsune rush from neutral.
But not until they lose Jacob already, Matt. There's like a question for me is whether Citrus Nation might be better off just taking an even fight with two Kitsune rushes simultaneously active. Instead, they try and wait out Luminosities and come in with one of their own, but that window was, I guess, utilized for Squid to find a free pick.
Yeah, they obviously probably didn't expect that kill to kind of come down at the time it did onto Jacob, where you end up losing the Lucia, you lose the ability to disengage or even just kind of get that speed through the Kitsune rush and go even deeper, right? So quite unfortunate for Citrus Nation. It's actually the one time that they didn't play like how they usually do, and that is just Squid poking out a little bit too far and dying at the hands of Lethal.
You can't count on that. These things just kind of happen of their own accord sometimes. Lethal making his own luck. And this is going to allow the cap to begin. You saw King there quickly trying to head over to contest, but they're not going to get there in time. They are a little bit too late. And now Citrus Nation will have this point. But they need to win 2 fights.
Man, that is already 77% for Luminosity. That is great. I mean,
and that's all because they disengaged away from Luminosity's Kitsune rush.
Hello.
Yeah. That's wild. It does not feel like they had the point for long, but still almost 80% there as now Citrus Nation, an opportunity here to probably win the game is you're going to have the overclocks for both of these Sojourns, where Lethal has been so good throughout this series, both DPS for Citrus Nation. We'll see if he can close it out.
Sure to be a deciding one, Matt. So much riding on it. Citrus Nation's hopes of making it to Dallas hang in the balance. Here's Vision, good pressure down on Zeb now. They've gone pretty low already, but King also had to recall early in the fight. It's Lethal catching the Tracer. It's Lethal, what a beautiful shot. Now it's going to be False with the Terror Surge. Zeb holding onto theirs, and Neutral gets the first Kitsune rush. Everything working in Citrus Nation's favor now. Vision's forced to slide away. False caught by a Javelin, and Tap now looks to find a Pulse Bomb connection. Doesn't need to. Vision's going to find just the one, but it's not nearly enough, and Citrus Nation get the job done. They take Suravasa and the series.
Man, a little bit of an upset there, I would say, as Citrus Nation, we know they've been playing really well as of late. They take down Luminosity, a very talented team that they actually ended up losing to, I know, back in the groups, right, where they get a little bit of a revenge here. Probably we'll go have a kind of check with, the League Ops, Comp Ops, everybody.
We're not checking
probably
that.
knocking Luminosity. They'll probably knocking Luminosity out of Dallas contention, right? I mean, crazy things can happen, right? But would make it very difficult, I imagine, for them to qualify as a Citrus Nation clutching up in a big way, keeping their chances alive.
I think, though, this was, generally like a match that Luminosity really had to win for themselves, and especially only winning the one map here is pretty darn devastating for them. I know Zoe's going to be very pleased about this because she was our only desk member that makes that prediction, but we saw False get subbed in for Flashpoint to play that Orisa mirror, and still Citrus Nation were undeniably better at it. The way they disengaged away from Kitsune rushes, while it did give away an early advantage on that last Flashpoint, they were able to come back in with an old advantage and take it away. Tons to talk about here. Fantastic game, a 3-in-1 series that I'm not going to forget in a hurry. Let's bring the desk in, though, and break it all down. What a banger, folks!
That was a phenomenal series, and I'm not just saying that because I was right and they were wrong. Let's repeat that. I was right and they were wrong.
Sorry, what? I didn't...
But I also, my prediction had no, hand or foot there. I was just all the heart.
Hey, Citrus Nation, they played a big game. They played a big series. I feel like Tap and Lethal, those two together, dynamic duo on the DPS, huge pickoffs there. I mean, when they were down on that last Flashpoint, Lethal getting the Miracle Rail on just Squid, taking down the Kiriko, I mean, that's the most impactful kill you can get to open up the game there. I mean, they were...
That was nerve-wracking.
That was going to be a
There was some spaghetti on the floor. the ragu was boiling over. It was a bit crazy on the Flashpoint, stepping off the points, leaving the point for Luminosity a couple times. There was definitely a moment where I was like, oh, Citrus Nation are not going to be able to close this out. They're actually kind of choking. But they did. And that's what matters. And they get the 3-1 win. this is an upset. There's no other way to frame it. Luminosity, this is a really well-respected roster, you know, a really stacked roster, and now Citrus Nation come in. After all, I don't even think they made a main event in stage 1. They beaten out Timeless, they beat out Luminosity, and now they find themselves in a top 4 matchup versus Students of the Game with potential to go all the way and qualify for Dallas tomorrow.
I will say, Citrus Nation, they do face the toughest road to qualify, because even if they make 3rd place, that's not good enough. They need to be top 2. So they're going to need to beat either M80 or Toronto Defiant to get a ticket to Dallas. It seems possible, but I mean, those are 2 fearsome teams to be matched up against. I think even tougher test than Luminosity, but this test was passed with flying colors, especially in the Orisa mirror. The team looks so well practiced.
Yep.
I think neutral on the Kiriko it has been really impressing me. I mean, you know, neutral back in the day, this guy was a hardcore Zen one trick on ladder, no swapping for any reason. But look at him now. He's clean on the Kiriko. Good calls, good ult usage, great tempo plays.
The rotations are so clean.
Yeah.
Like their disengagements are so clean. Whenever Luminosity, they try to make a move, they try to make an aggressive move, quick disengage, we re-engage, we fight on our terms. Really impressive stuff in this mirror.
Yeah,
Speaking of impressive stuff there, though, Johnny, I know that from the very beginning of the main event, you had your eyes on Jacob. Yay, nay, still high on him?
Jacob did well. You know, there were some moments still in the series where it's like, I think, you know, it's not a competitive series. I mean, you're playing against a really good team. They're going to punish you. So I don't think you can isolate one single player here and just blame them or like individually look at their mistakes too much. You know, this is really some of the best teams in North America, right? So it was a little bit better in today's matchup. But again, like, it's so hard to get value from here. Seb played the match. I don't disagree with that at all, though. Seb has been a standout on the Orisa so far and consistently gets so much value in these Orisa mirrors. As I said earlier in the day, like, if you can force out some of the enemy Orisa abilities out early, if you can isolate targets, that's going to give you a huge leg up in some of these fights. And I always feel like Seb, he takes a little bit of damage, but like, he never overextends, or he never really finds himself in a situation where he gets isolated and targeted. It's really consistent value throughout. It's a good presence on the point, and that's what you want from your Orisa. Recognition to go aggressive when you find an opening, but also never making yourself vulnerable for the rest of your team and making it easier for your opponent. So I've been really impressed with Seb throughout the entire group stage, but also here in the main event.
Yeah, sick armor management. He like never lets his armor get, or if he drops his armor, he's always going to hide and try and get back into that armor threshold, which is critical on Orisa. When you have that armor, every heal you get, 30% more valuable.
Yeah, Seb going strong in the tournament, but so does the relationship of Seb's parents. Happy anniversary to them.
Wow.
Whoa.
Deep lore.
Wow.
We are prepared on the broadcast.
That's great. I love that.
You know, gotta shout it out.
I also
celebrate love. That's what we're all about.
I want to talk about Tap that series, man.
Yeah.
Tap, I feel, really came out huge on the Tracer. I think you look at Citrus Nation, a lot of people have seen Lethal before, you know, playing on bigger name teams, maybe a little bit more well-known. But Tap, I think, was the better Tracer today, at least, and put up a huge performance, really strong in the Tracer one-on-one, which doesn't always result in kill. So it doesn't always not always popping up in the kill feed. But if you edge out that enemy Tracer, force them back to a pack, that's another opening to go, okay, time, I'm going to go shoot your Orisa now. And as Orisa, I mean, you're dueling plenty, right? You're fighting the enemy Orisa, you're taking spam from the Sojourn. And so when the Tracer shows up on your flank, that can really swing the tank battle. So big impact winning those Tracer duels on the flank, getting yourself a little edge in the fight, snowballs into something much more.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is that Tap found some early picks on King, especially on Suravasa, to close things out, right? So if you're questioning Citrus Nation, maybe they're, you know, like I said, choking a little bit, you know, giving up the point, not quite sure about their pre-fight plan. Your Tracer coming in clutch, getting a pick or two, I mean, that's just going to make life so much easier. So Tap, definitely a standout in this series.
You know what? I got just a thing for you. Tap, post-game interview. Let's do it.
Wait, Tap is listening?
Yeah, listening. Audio. I just have a tendency of looking at the big screen.
He's tapping in?
Tap was listening. He's tapping in. That's right. Tap, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Wonderful. We can hear you as well. So, of course, congratulations on that dub. Some people might have considered you the underdog coming into this one, or not the favorite to win it, but it was a beautiful match, and you guys performed out of your minds. How much further can you take it?
Thank you very much. Well, we're just gonna try to take it as far as we can. I think we have to beat 2 more teams to make it to Dallas, so we're just gonna try our best.
I'm really curious, Tap, you playing with Lethal. I know you guys have played on teams before, but how does it feel to play in like a comfortable damage duo where you guys know each other really well and you guys play off each other really comfortably? What's the dynamic like between specifically the two of you, Lethal and you on the team?
It feels very good because we're both used to each other. Yeah, like you said, I played with him before, so sometimes he will call stuff directly to me, and I can just follow up on that, and we've been doing that for a while, and it's really working well.
How do you guys feel about Citrus Nation's performance in Stage 2 so far? What were your expectations going into Stage 2, and how was your prep for these matches? How are the feelings within the team after taking down Luminosity right now?
It definitely feels good to beat this team. I think they're a very good team. Yeah, as long as it stays Arista, I think we should be a good team. So, because Zev is just the best Arista in the game, I think.
Yeah, I mean, after the performance we saw today from, honestly, the entire team, there's no doubt about you guys having a great grasp on that Orisa composition. Now, anything out of that, we haven't seen that many other compositions from you guys, but do you have something else up your sleeve, and do you think you will need it going up against the opposition?
I think if we did have something up our sleeves, we probably shouldn't tell you yet.
Smart.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 answer. You understood the brief.
As a coach, I like this answer. I hate like a player get an interview and they're like, yeah, we practiced a couple extra. We got a wrecking ball strategy we're going to pull out on this match.
Listen,
It's like, oh, thanks. Appreciate that.
I got to shoot my shot. But you caught it. You caught it. Thank you so much for joining us here for a quick chat. Of course, once again, congratulations to you and the team. What a wonderful run we've seen from Citrus Nation so far, and we hope it doesn't stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.